Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Overtime. I'm really excited today, and I hope you are too. I am here with Rich Pierle, the CEO and founder of Pier Digital and former CIO of Becton Dickinson. Now, this is great because I'm going to jump into a really tough topic that I know all of you ask about: digital transformation. I couldn't be more excited to have a guest like this on to help educate all of you and help you learn about what that actually is. So without much further ado, let's welcome Rich to the show. Rich, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself, Scott?
Doing well. So, I didn't mean to overhype or anything. I mean, you are the preeminent voice in digital transformation. From everything I see on LinkedIn, I go to you for when I want to learn about that. And, jumping right in, if I could ask you, what do you define as digital transformation?
So for me, it really starts with companies who are looking to make a change in their business model. It could be, how they sell. It could be, how they interact with a customer in a call center. It could be, any one of a number of things along that, customer continuum, or even with the back office. And they want to make a change in really how they do things. And it's a technology-based change. And so, that's really where it starts. It could be little things. Some of the things that, we were doing at BD was, helping hospitals, understand their information better. And so, how does that start to permeate through an organization and those things that you need to do differently? And so, people think it has to be some sort of big, overreaching program like an ERP implementation. But it starts with, what are those changes? What are those things you want to do from a customer intimacy standpoint differently? And then how do you leverage technology to really make what I would say a big, shift in how the experience and how you're going to change the experience for the customer. And like I said, it manifests in a number of different ways. It could be, moving, your back office from, hardened data center that you run and manage yourself to the cloud. Again, that's probably more back office facing, but that is a transformation of sorts. And I think, there's so many, it's like I think you used AI as an example, or cloud. Everybody hears these terms and they're like, really, what does it mean to me? And what I found is the more that you can take, a specific use case and talk about, what does it mean? It could be starting with big data, right? Scrubbing your information, cleaning it, getting it in a way where you can actually do, a different level of analytics on it. I've got friends in the pharmaceutical space who are going back over, old, information from different trials and looking for different uses based on that information, and they're using big data. That is, a digital transformation of sorts. So it's really, how do organizations think orthogonally, looking at, their technology, looking at their processes, looking at what they have, and either use it in a different way, come up with different business models, and really accelerate and move their business differently. And so, I think what we're seeing is that COVID is proving to be a catalyst for organizations looking to do things differently. It's funny for me seeing all these commercial about Zoom and Microsoft Teams. I mean, this is technology that's been around for, 5 to 7 years. But a lot of people weren't using it because, they didn't need to.
Yep.
Right. I can go meet, I can go fly, I can do this. And that kind of all changed. And so, you could even call, pushing organizations going to Zoom and going to Teams is a digital transformation of sorts. It's a small transformation, but again, you're seeing kind of what that means to, the commercial real estate market, to, different cities and geographies. People are starting an exodus. So it's how all of these little technology shifts cause ripples, across the from the digital landscape to the physical landscape. And I see, all of those things as, part of, digital transformation, which is driving a larger, organizational and societal change.
Yeah. Now, if I could ask, like, with what you see, do you find that people kind of mistake what a digital transformation is, or that they kind of cut up the definition of a digital transformation? Like, as in, let's talk about moving to the cloud. That's a big one that everybody's done. That they kind of don't understand that it's a bunch of areas coming together, if you will. That it's not just, you as a leader saying, hey, we're going to do this. Everybody's got to be on the same team. And do you think, like, when we define these terms of what a digital transformation is, that a lot of it get lost in the minutia and it's just kind of focusing on achieving this big goal?
So I think you've got to, sometimes it comes, I was having a conversation with another leader yesterday, and, some of this is about understanding organizational nomenclature. And so how do you actually sell something and move it inside of an organization? And so some people have decided to use, digital transformation because that's, the cool buzzword of the day, is a way to drive the change, because everybody wants to kind of get on, the cool train, as it were. And so that's how they're doing it. Is they're saying, well, cloud, they're attaching cloud to digital transformation. They're attaching their agenda, and, kind of look at it along a maturity curve. Cloud, people have been moving to the cloud for a long period of time. Now, for some organizations, it's cost effective. For some, it may not be. And that's always going to be a driver for some of this stuff. And that's usually the first thing I urge, companies to look at is there a business case? Is there some compelling, business rationale, to move, you from where you are to where you want to be? I'll give you another example. We looked at, is there a reason, to introduce blockchain? And this was a conversation we were having, at BD, probably 3.5 years ago. And, all the leaders said, yeah, it's interesting, but, it seems like it's just not there, and it's not something we would do today. Now, that's the challenge with some of this, is not today, doesn't necessarily mean not ever. And so you have to keep, asking the question as these technologies, evolve and mature, because, the video phone was invented, in the 60s, by Bell Labs, mm-hmm. but the broad applications of it, we really didn't, experience it, until the mobile phone phenomenon, really. So, how do you determine the right entry point to start applying these technologies in a way that you can scale, right? Because I think that's an important aspect of this. And I think there's a couple pieces. There's a way to scale it, and there's a way to make sure that it will be adopted, because those two problems are, in my mind, why a lot of technologies today have kind of gotten stopped at the front door of many organizations, right? And Scott, you and I know a number of companies that they've got great technology, it's a compelling argument, but the companies or the organizations aren't necessarily willing
yep.
to go there and drive the change into the organization. And I think that's partly why, I've, picked up a lot of folks that want to talk to me about what their solutions are doing, is because, I believe that, in order to survive long term, some of these companies really have to move, to these technologies and to these, what I would call game changers, or they're going to, over time, become irrelevant. And so you look at, I've got an insurance company, a large life insurance company partner, who today, they've got these little small companies like Lemonade that are kind of, starting to chip away at their business. And today it's not material, but as they start to pick up subscribers, as they start to make, the insurance process easier, these large, insurance companies that have heavy duty legacy operations are going to become more and more at risk. And it becomes difficult to change yourself because you've got a certain business model and way of doing things. And it's difficult to make those technology changes, and there's always the concern of losing your base while this is happening. And so these are all the forces I think that executives are dealing with today, is they don't want to lose what they have. And they're afraid by making changes, they may actually, materially impact their revenue. And so they're kind of caught, in almost, no man's land, with what decisions do I need to make for my organization?
No, that's completely something in the realm that I'm in, with the supply chain and kind of all the challenges of COVID and stuff like that. You said something that really caught my mind, is the different viewpoints of it. Now, do you think truly people like yourself, truly transformational minds, have a different definition of this than, say, a lot of the status quo that's been established, the legacy minds that are running these businesses, that kind of they're two different trains of thought?
Well, I think, it's the challenge that you have is you've got to find a dynamic leader who believes in the change, isn't afraid to make those changes. I mean, look at GE a few years ago. I think what they were trying to do was truly transformational, in driving, to their platform. It was kind of too big. And so you've got a couple problems. I think the vision, and people, hindsight's always 2020. So you can look back and say, we spent too much money, we should have done it this way or that way. But you need a vision, and you need, I think, managerial courage to follow the vision, but you've got to make it digestible by not just your organization, but also your customer base. And so that's the hard part with making, I think, these changes, is you've got to figure out, and I'm going to use the thread the needle, cliche, but that's the hard part. And I think, the leaders that understand their business, that are willing to make some bets. And I don't even think you need to necessarily make big bets, because I think some of these technologies are actually pretty cost effective. And to be honest, 10 years ago, everybody was in we had to do a $200 or $300 million ERP implementation. You don't have to spend that kind of money with these solutions. I think the hard part right now is what combination of solutions is going to get me to the right place, because there isn't necessarily one place to go to get what I want. It's a lot of smaller companies. It's a lot of companies that aren't necessarily wider known. And I think what you're going to start seeing is, I think you're going to start seeing PE companies start to put some of these smart companies together in what I would call a PE, digital transformation string of pearl strategy. Yep. And as part of that, they're going to be going after aspects of the market. And what does that mean? It's like, think about data science. I'm going to pull together a bunch of tool sets that is specifically focused on data scientists and being able to connect that. And I think that's going to drive digital transformation in a segment of the marketplace. I think you're going to see data analytics tools, right? And, data analytics combined with, data cleansing tools. So I can see like a Tableau, some of the cleansing tools, some of the things that are going to, maybe remove bias from data, because I think that's going to become a big deal. So I think you're going to see maybe a string of pearl strategy there. And so I think some of the winners in this space are going to have some big PE backing. And so, nobody's, people are interested if Goldman's behind it, or if, some of these, big name, PE entities are behind it. So it lends credibility. Whereas if these small companies are kind of by themselves, I don't know who, Joe's data cleansing is, right? I mean, I'm being a little facetious, but that's, I think, the challenge is there's just so many. You've got a signal and the noise problem out in the marketplace right now. And, I'll give you a real example. I was talking with a small company that does basically speech to data. right? It basically transcribes it because you've got so much that's going still over the phone. And how do I start to convert that to information so I can actually analyze all my calls? Well, I think there's a huge opportunity there, but Google's too expensive, and the little guys nobody wants to trust. And so you've got these different what I would say market imbalances, and you need customers that are willing to experiment. And I think you're in an interesting position right now because I think everybody was in the bunker, so to speak, with COVID. Hopefully, I think companies are starting to come out. And now is a ripe time in my mind to start saying, okay, what are the things that we need? What do we learn from COVID? Hopefully people are asking and answering that question. And then what are the things that we need to start doing differently in order to address, what we found and what we may need to change in our business models? And then what are the tool sets? Because I think, companies are going to open up, to the extent that they can open up their checkbooks and start spending on some of these solutions in a smart way. And so, if you're a technology company, how does your strategy start to line up with that? Yep. And, who are you starting to partner with? Because I don't believe some of the spot solution partners, I don't think you can go it alone. My frustration, and I remember, talking to some of your former colleagues, I don't want to buy a piece of software. I want to buy a solution as a CIO. And everybody's selling software, right? I get it. And the model of, I've got a piece of software, I'm selling you a license, and, I'm going to come back to you every couple of years to when I've got, the next version. I just think I want a solution partner, and I want somebody who's going to stick with their solution and is not looking to keep selling me another, upgrade to the software. And I think that's really, it's a challenge for software companies, but it's an opportunity. I think some are trying to go there. And I think if you can't totally get there by yourself, this is where you need a consulting partner, somebody like me, somebody like, some of the other consultancies that can help with adoption, because that's where companies struggle. It's not understanding the technology, because in most cases, the technology works. That's not the issue. It's how do I apply it against all the mess that I have, in my legacy infrastructure? How do I plug it in? How do I get my users to use it so it doesn't, become an IT tool? And really that's in my mind, an abject failure is when a business tool becomes, an IT tool. I remember a piece of software, I can't remember the name of it, but it was this big deal, and I got a lot of pressure from the business to install it. Everything was an emergency. 2 years after we put it in, the business stopped using it, and it was an expensive tool. And there was some nastiness around when you acquired a new company and things like that. But, it's just like, that's failure. It's because now it's my problem, and they're not using it.
No. And that's, Rich, one thing that you mentioned, it's all about partnerships, and you want people like yourself and making the right choices. You've done it. You've made those, you've made mistakes, you've learned from them, and you've had great success. So that's one thing that, I feel very passionate about, is developing those partnerships, learning from a company. It's no longer just a sales model. It's about finding that partner. And, I'm going to say that that's a good possible point for us to kind of, if you're willing, let's have another conversation at a later date. I'd love to pick your brain about where do people start on this. So with that, I'm going to have this be the last of our episode today on digital transformation. I want to thank you all for watching, and make sure to hit that subscribe button below, and see y'all later.
All right. Thanks, Scott. Bye.